I'd like to cover using the Biodex Gait Trainer treadmill and a weighting system for providing what we call systematic speed-dependent treadmill training. This is where we'll use this system to progressively and systematically increase walking speed with the patient. When I'm performing this type of a session, initially I'll perform a comprehensive evaluation of the patient, which includes measuring their self-selected overground pace as well as their fastest possible overground pace. We'll use those parameters as some of the initial starting points for the treadmill. Their self-selected pace we'll use as sort of their baseline or warm-up pace for the treadmill, and the fast overground pace we'll use as a guideline for providing some of the interval trainings and interval sessions initially with the treadmill. Typically, I like to start with a familiarization session first, where we just practice walking on the treadmill at their comfortable pace, and including looking at comfort level with the harness, the amount of support that the harness is providing that optimizes the quality of their gait. Then we'll perform an initial training session to start to develop our parameters for the progressive speed training. So when we do this familiarization, or it's not familiarization, but initial training session, I like to use the gait training mode. So currently we have the display monitor here set, and we have it in the gait training mode. So we're going to go ahead and hit start, and we'll start our initial walking. Now our patient, we have already measured her comfortable walking speed over ground, and that was 1.7 miles per hour. And so we've got her warmed up here a little bit. We'll assume we've had some warm-up time here. We'll start the gait training mode. So what I'm looking for as she's doing this initial walking is I'm looking at the display here, and we are able to, in real time, look at the step length of both her right and left leg relative to normal step length for somebody of her height and age. And primarily what I'm looking for is that the red and blue lines are close together. That gives us an idea of symmetry, that the step length is similar between both legs, and also that they fall within the green line or even slightly above it. I'm just wanting to not see that fall below the bottom of the green line. So now that we've done our warm-up, we'll say 4 or 5 minutes has gone by here, we're going to start with our first interval. And we know that her first interval is going to be around 2.3 miles an hour because we've already tested that with her fast walking pace over ground. So here we go. So we're going to go up to 2.3. And again, all I'm going to be doing here is looking at the display monitor, looking for the right and left leg symmetry, step symmetry to be similar. As she's walking faster now, her step length is increased to accommodate the new speed, which is fine. Depending on the patient's level of fitness, the intervals that I will do will range anywhere from 30 seconds up to 2 minutes, but 30 seconds is usually a good start. Now we're going to come back down to her base pace, and we might spend a minute or two at her base pace. And if the last interval that I provided for her looked like it was easy, or that she was maintaining the quality of her walking, I can systematically increase at another level. So we're going to do another interval now. And in this case, we're going to go up, since she looked good at 2.3, we're going to go to 2.5 miles an hour. And so we see that her step length is increased, and her symmetry between the two limbs looks good because the red and blue line are overlapping. If I were to see the red and blue line separate, or she starts to have difficulty with step length to maintain that speed, or I notice a significant increase in the quality of her walking, that would give me an indication that I'm probably at my limit for this session with her intervals. Another thing we want to make sure we're working on here, I'm going to slow you down here, or aware of, we're going to go back to your base pace, is before you do any type of a training session like this, you do have to establish cutoff values for both blood pressure and heart rate based on any of the patient's comorbidities and so forth. Once we have performed our initial training session for our speed-dependent training and established the parameters for both the baseline pace and our interval pacing, one of the advantages of the Biodex Gait Trainer is the ability to create and edit custom profiles. So I'm in the custom profile mode, and I am putting in a custom profile for our patient based on our training session. So you'll notice that we have the ability to have 10 different stages of activity and alter the parameters for each of those stages. So in this case, so for stage 1, we're going to enter her base pace, which we said was 1.7 miles an hour. We're going to leave elevation in the middle column here alone for this particular situation, and we're going to do a warm-up of 5 minutes for the session, and then our next stage will be an interval. And so we're going to click on that, and we're going to make our interval pace 2.3 miles an hour, and we're going to do that initially for 30 seconds. And then we're going to go back and we're going to slow it back down to our base pace, but sometimes I may not slow it all the way back down, so maybe let's go 1.8, and then we'll do that for 1 minute just to give a chance for heart rate to recover, and then we will go to another interval, and we know that she could go up to 2.5 pretty well, so we're going to go to that next interval, 2.5, and we're going to do that for 30 seconds. And you can see how we can then progressively increase these values or leave them similar throughout this particular profile. And as the patient progresses, it's very easy then to go back, pull up these profiles, and quickly change and tweak these particular parameters up or down based on how the patient is performing. And then also the treadmill performs this function for you, so if you need to be working with the patient to provide any manual cues and monitoring other things with the patient, you don't have to be up here ramping up and down speeds.